Welcome to Monster Chats, presented by Monster VoIP, where we share the tools, methods, and best practices that business leaders use to build new connections, strengthen relationships, and impact sales in organizations of all shapes and sizes. If you have any questions that come up during today's episode, please text them to 424-378-6966. Please welcome the founder of Monster VoIP, your host, Colin Mitchell.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking with Dale Dupree of Sales Rebellion. Dale and I are going to be talking about radically educating your prospects on the first touch and how to create response, whether good or bad, but never indifferent. I'm Colin Mitchell, the host of Monster Chats and the founder of Monster VoIP. Dale Dupree is an exemplary model of what it means to be yourself. He embodies practicing what you preach and isn't afraid to own his mistakes. With enough love to pass around, Dale takes having a passion for life seriously. Cultivated by the courage and fueled by sincerity, Dale was raised to be extraordinary. He has picked up the torch left to him by his father and uses it to light the way for himself as well as for others. For him, the Sales Rebellion is the fruition of a decade of waking up every morning determined to know true success. Welcome to the show, Dale. How you doing?
I'm good, man. That was an epic introduction. Who wrote that?
Somebody pretty creative. Pretty.
It wasn't me.
So, I mean, before, today we're going to be talking about how serving others, causing impact, and telling stories ties into sales. We're going to talk a little bit about your mission at the Sales Rebellion, and then the next chapter of modern sales success. But before we dive in, just tell us a little bit about your story and kind of how you got started and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, man, for sure. So pretty much every single podcast I do starts with me telling the tale of my father back in 1984 when he founded his copier firm. I was born in 85, sort of running through my blood. You guys know the drill. But this time I'm going to do it a little bit differently.
Okay.
One of the things that I've been talking about recently is the way that not just describing, working in small business, but also for folks to understand where I got my start, they need to understand how my father kind of cultured me. On top of being in small business and kind of learning how to wear every hat, how to do anything and everything that you could think of, he also saw the creative in me that we were just joking about. And he nurtured the living hell out of it. He would allow me to tell stories. He would allow me to get super engaged into, let's just say, a movie or a book, and it would ask me questions like, what do you think of this? Or how do you envision this? Or would you do this differently? And so over time, a lot of the things that I was doing at a young age, even between the years of being 10 and 18, I can remember having say, not, full say by any means, but somewhat of an opinion inside of decisions made for my life. And to include, hey, do you want to be a musician? Is that something you want to do? Because my mom had put me in piano lessons. Mm-hmm. And so my dad gave me a say in that essentially. And if you did, would you want to play something else? And, and so my answer was the electric guitar. So I said, well, I'll give you an electric guitar if you learn how to play an acoustic. All right, Dad. So I learned how to play an acoustic, and then he got me an electric guitar and got me lessons, which founded Imperial, the band that I toured with for about 5-6 years on Warner Brothers Records, which was my first stint inside of a career, inside of my work life. It was the most fun a work life could ever be. Every night playing for a new group of strange people, enjoying every moment of it, and selling like crazy, and didn't even know it. Whether I was on the stage, in the crowd, at the merch table, I was selling the whole time, which led to me coming home and selling for my father at his copier firm. I spent about 4 years, almost 5 years with him there before he sold it. The company was acquired by a little firm called North American Office Solutions. They were doing about $8 million a year in revenue, and I took it to 25 over the next 6 years. And in the process of doing so, I lost my dad to cancer in 2016. In 2017, I resigned from the firm, just feeling a little bit lost and broken. There's some other things that I could talk about too, but who cares? And then I made some mistakes in between 2017 and 2018, getting my way to my next home, which I then spent about a year and a half at selling copiers again, but for a much larger firm, about 60 million. And we were tied to a $2 billion organization that owned us. So I got to learn a lot of the corporate garbage that most people have to sit through and stick out. And it caused me to sit back and say, I don't know why I'm working for other people, number one, because I'm such a rebel to begin with. And it wasn't that I was a rebel without a cause by any means. I had something I was pursuing. And it wasn't just something that was for me either. It was something that was for sales in general. It was for the reps that I supported. It was for the community in which we serve. And so I sat back and evaluated that and said, it's time to leave and time to start the Sales Rebellion. And I've been doing that for a year and 1 month and 20 days.
But who's counting?
Yeah, who's counting, bro? It's cool to do a podcast on 420, by the way. I've never done that. And being that our generation is like the founders of 420, I feel honored that we're doing this. If there's anybody out there that's a stoner that's listening, just know that I love you anyway.
I thought you were going to light up now or something.
I should, but I'm drinking. I don't know if people can see this, if this is just going on the air, as audio, but I'm drinking a really green, healthy dirt smoothie right now. So I probably am I probably should be a stoner is what I'm saying. I eat granola and crunchy stuff. So,
yeah. So tell me, before we dive into the topics, right, I just want to go back for a second. Tell me, what was that transition of touring for 6 years and then going to working for your father?
It was full of fist fights, tons of temptation, both sexually and every substance you could possibly imagine, drama, backstabbing, hatred. In Jesus, by the way, because I'm a Christian, and I was in that band to preach the gospel. I wasn't like a Bible thumper on stage by any means, but I was in that band to bring light to my faith and to what I believe God was calling me to this earth to do. On top of everything I just said, I had to deal with all those conflicting issues, and so for me, it was actually a relief to leave all that, because wow. I was around other Christians that were doing lines of coke off of a table right before they got on stage and worshipped. It was insane, the things that I was subjected to, and it was driving me crazy. I started to feel like a fake and a fraud, and started to suffer from imposter syndrome, and started to be tempted to become one of these men or women and just say screw it and do it all for the money. And listen, dude, we were so close. People ask all the time, Warner, that's a big label, bro. We were literally on our way to the largest tour that we were ever going to be on. We were about to play a show for 100,000 people at a festival, and our van broke down. And that was the start of things starting to slip away. And even the crazy part, bro, is in the midst of all that, everything kind of slipping away, I rebuilt it. I left the band, and then I rebuilt the band with 2 of the founding members. Three went away and 3 of us stayed, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And in the midst of rebuilding it, we probably had more success than we did prior to, but we never got to that peak again. And the reason that we didn't was because of abuse, mostly drugs. And I put my foot down for the most part. So I wanted to get married. I wanted to pursue a different type of lifestyle. And so honestly, it was a massive relief to go from one to the next. You couldn't go to your prospect's office and bow up to them, and knock somebody out when you had a dispute or a negotiation that you needed to do. So I had a little bit of learning to do from that perspective, but it was when I started to also develop the inner teddy bear, as my mom likes to say, and the peaceful side of Dale that always existed, because I've always been a defender of men and women, but in those years I became more of a conqueror. And it was because of the lifestyle. It was because of the musical choice, how heavy it was, the people we surrounded ourselves with, the gangs, the violence. And so when I got back into a place of kind of being at my center and being in a more comfortable skin, like my own skin, it was peaceful, bro. And I think that's where a lot of my success came from, was getting out of what I was in and coming directly into B2B sales.
Wow. But what a big transition to come from that and go into that and try to start to navigate your way through figuring out how to do that.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, a little bit. And then tell me a little bit more about that transition of when you left, the company and went somewhere else and kind of, talk to me about those feelings and kind of that transition.
That was tough. It was, there was a lot of tears. My HR lady, I'll never forget her for the rest of my life. I'm super grateful to her, especially in that moment. She shut the door and said, let's just talk. You can't leave. I was the number one rep and the VP of sales, for overseeing one of the branches. And so it was, and I had a big reputation. I was the copy warrior. I mean, I had built something massive, and I don't say that to brag. I take pride in the legacy that my father had left me. And so I didn't milk what he left me either, bro. I earned every little bit that he had handed off and then some. I did things that he never thought he could even do in the first place. And those are the things that helped me find that peace and helped me to keep that clarity. And I sat back and I said to myself, my dad isn't here anymore. He doesn't exist here anymore. This company is taken over. His policies don't exist anymore. Even the products that he liked to innovate using and that our company was so successful with were pretty much gone. And so why should I stay? And I was itching for ownership and for the next level. And, how do I make an upward lateral move? And I had a lot of people speaking in my ear, and my dad was gone. There were no whispers from him, and there were no bold statements and direction from him either. And so I had to start to make my own decisions from that perspective. And it was a good thing because I got to have some failures. And not that I didn't fail in my 20s, failed like crazy in my 20s. I mean, I failed like crazy becoming such a proficient salesperson to begin with. And on the way there, I mean, I learned enough that you would think that when I got to 29 years old that I would make better decisions. 30 years old, I would make better decisions. But I think that's the beauty of who I am, is that I'm not living for retirement. I'm living for my moments. And I'm always thinking about who I will be when I'm 55 and all the different little boxes that I've got to go through to get there. Who will I be in this moment right now? And then also, where am I at 41? Who am I going to be then too? What's that look like? And always making decisions based on a reality that I'm working towards something much bigger than just like throwing in the towel and saying I'm done, but like a pivot at a certain age. I mean, I want to be 90 years old writing books, bro. That's my dream. And so to think that way and to understand, even to conceptualize like having two generations of kids like running around you at 90 years old, like those things are romantic to me, and they make me drive toward life and to push and to feed, or to, I should say, to consume everything positive around me and everything that can help me to fail quicker in most cases, right? So the transition was easy from the perspective of making the choice. But man, oh man, was it emotional. I mean, I even sat with the owners and cried my little eyes out. And one of them was pretty much, he's always been just like a total rock, right? And I'm complimenting him by saying that. Like, the guy doesn't have an emotion inside of him, I don't think. But I love him to death, dude. Don't get me wrong. And then the other one cried like a little baby with me, and I just welled up. And that's why, for me too, that's why I knew that it was time to go, because I could see it. I could feel it in that room even. And I knew this was the right decision. I left all my accounts to other people. I did everything the right way. I left my team. My team was pretty devastated too, dude. I'm not going to lie. They were pretty upset, but it was time. And then for 90 days, I spent time with another organization that I don't talk about. You'll never find it on my LinkedIn, because it burned me more than it failed, right? It burned me bad. And after that, I jumped into alcohol, which my father struggled with up until he was 35, and then became sober. And I was a year and 4 months at the time. It was January of 1986. And he became sober for the rest of my life. And here I am, like, turning to these things in the midst of making decisions to honor a man that I lived my life to bring glory to. And so I even, in our best intentions, we fall. And so I had to struggle with myself for several months, and then ended up at another copier firm. And what was crazy too is I just to kind of go over this question that might come next. I got to that firm, and the leadership that hired me all got fired. So I sat back and was just like, well, I guess I'm here for a stint, and so we'll see how long it lasts. That's basically how I said it to myself. And I worked as hard as I could. I did things for that company that they could never have done without me, without a doubt, when it came to, you know, acquiring net new business with their models and the way that they ran their company. And honestly, the only reason I went there were for those leaders. All that other stuff I already knew was broken to begin with, you know, so
wow.
It sucked.
What a ride, huh?
Hell of a ride, dude.
So, all right, let's dig in, man. Tell me, you know, how, you know, serving others and causing impact and telling stories ties into sales.
You know, I think sales, we so often tend to run from the word. We hear it and we say, oh, no, that's dirty. That word's dirty. I'm not a salesperson. You know, we tend to have this ideology even that we have professed ourselves as salespeople, or a stereotype that we put salespeople into. Doesn't matter how you sit at it or look at it, everybody thinks salespeople suck. Everybody hates a salesperson, right? Even salespeople.
even salespeople that are out and they're like, "What do you do?" Oh, sales.
Yeah, right.
You know?
People are so timid and shy of the process because of what people have done to it over the years. I don't blame them. Everybody's in sales though, and people, it's insanity to sit around here and talk about that somehow we don't sell, or, you know, no, we have solutions architects. Like, come on, guys, like, you can name it whatever you want. It's sales, and everybody sells. Janitors sell a clean environment. Brokers sell a network, right? You know, leaders sell something structured and successful on a daily basis inside of their organizations. Like, everybody sells. So people that deny it and that continue to push away from it are just lying to themselves, and they'll never have that true fulfillment. But those that embrace it understand that they need to be defenders of their community and not champions or conquerors. And the idea of that, and what I mean by that, is that there's a difference between a king and a knight, right? And there's a difference between a castle and a kingdom. And the bigger perspective is that if we truly want to do what's best for other people, as sales should be to begin with, then we will serve. We will serve unequivocally. We will never sit back and ask the question of, should I put more money in this deal or should I take care of the customer? We'll never sit back and ask the question of, but they don't really need this. Should I sell it to them anyway? Or should I try and find another fit? We'll never run into those types of issues, because everything will be done through integrity from an ethics and moral standpoint, for the betterment of the person on the other end. But because we don't, and because and as salespeople, we suck at this too, because we constantly look at buyers and think, oh my God, I don't want to call in a construction firm if I'm selling copiers. Those guys suck. And I walk in with my fancy shirt and my fancy slacks, and they've got jeans and a ripped up, you know, AC/DC tank on, and they judge me the whole time. Well, yeah, they judge you. You look like an idiot, you know, compared to them, you know? And so understanding those things and knowing how perception works and the way that expectations work, and to let all that stuff slide and to connect with people. To connect with people is to serve them. Now, that's why it's such an important piece.
And to give salespeople the benefit of the doubt, right? I mean, ultimately, it's a long chain of not being taught properly, right? Starts with the leadership. And I think, would you say a lot of salespeople, you know, the reason that they, you know, aren't so authentic is they're just driven by fear?
I would say that that's a really good statement. That fear kind of drives us in general to do a lot of things that we don't mean to do to begin with, or that turn out to be the wrong choice in most cases. But I think also there's a lot of salespeople that like and to feed off of the drama and to feed off of the negativity. I think that people have to be looking deep down inside before they can sit and look at the job itself and the description itself and the product they sell itself. And they have to sit back and know who they are first. Because if they do have manipulative tendencies, or they like a little bit of drama, right, then they're going to be seeking it. They're going to be chasing it to some extent. And if their motives also are based around money and success and fame and the jet, right, then they're wrong. You know, those things don't build a happy environment. happiness is every day and what it is that you live in. I just actually got done recording an awesome podcast with Keenan where we talked about this, finding your true happiness and what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like right on topic, man. I mean, like yesterday or last week, I posted on LinkedIn about, how we had a large opportunity, big opportunity, and ultimately we weren't the right fit. So we referred them to a competitor because we were not the best solution for them. And, so doing what's right and having that faith that things will work out if you do the right thing is really the component of like trying to be authentic and genuinely help others. Right. And then, I also interviewed Mark Metry a couple weeks ago, and
my guy.
And he said, money won't buy happiness. He came from a very dark place and had some early on success and was still very unhappy.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, living off of 5 figures, less than you're thinking too. And I had tons of money. When you've got 6 figures liquid in your checking account and nothing to do with it, it's a really awesome feeling, except for the fact that when you're worshiping it, when you're allowing it to create safety instead of it to just be what it is in the first place, a means to get to the place that you're trying to get to, because it's just a means. Money's just a means. It comes and it goes, like in a flash too, right? I tried to kill myself in the midst of all that, and the things that stopped me were very divine from my perspective, like my father being at the office that morning, that early for the first time ever in his life, and basically telling me, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to be here, things like that, and like, suicide note ready, the works, like ready to rock, ready to get off this earth, ready to call it quits. And it was my second time going through this. And so I decided that I could do it, because the first time I was only stopped by my mother in the middle of it, and she saved my life. And so for me, it wasn't this thing of like, I need to question this, or I need to go talk to somebody. It was like, no, I've already tried this, and this is where I'm headed. And if in such a short time, I'm already back here again. And all these things, all the success that I've had, all these things that I've done aren't helping. I'm just going to leave, but thankfully it started there, and it ended with my wife, finding messages in my phone that unveiled things that I was struggling with, and just sin in general. And it's not easy to talk about this stuff because it's very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable state that you put yourself in to admit all these types of things. But bro, listen, when my dad died, everything changed in my life. There were no more secrets. There was no more reason to hide behind anything. There were no more excuses. It was time to understand for myself that someone needed to become the patriarch of the family. And then I could either be the guy that went down in flames at 41, from an overdose, or, found like in a hotel room with 6 hookers, or, whatever this disgusting story is that comes out with the people that everybody goes, man, he was such a nice guy. I don't know what happened. Right. I had to sit back and like come to this reality of, I need to talk about these things. I need to expose this stuff, because there's people out there listening right now that are having the same problems. And if I can help one person at the end of the day, that's all I'm here for.
Yeah. And this ties back to that piece of talking about like, it's really an inside job, right? It's really like taking care of yourself and being authentic and genuine in your personal life to then be able to actually be authentic and genuine in your professional life.
Truth.
So tell us about the mission behind the Sales Rebellion.
Yeah, our vision statement is that we want people to tear down their castles and to come and build a kingdom with us. And the rebellion is more than just, some people look at it negatively to an extent because they see rebellion and they think like, yeah, let's spike the ball and kick the man in the teeth, and it really, like, it's not about that. At the end of the day, it's cool if you take up arms like that. That's cool. But, like, that's not what we're here for. We're here to love. We're here to show people the true nature of sales, the empathetic approach. the idea of meeting people where they are, choosing to fellowship over negotiations, choosing culture or community over commission checks, being somebody that decides to give people an experience through sales instead of just pitching them something, right? This bigger picture.
It's almost like an oxymoron, right? Like that's the rebellion. Like doing the right thing, serving, like choosing to help others over your commission check. That's the rebellion.
It is, right? And the thing is that we're all starting to kind of see it right now, even though we've been preaching it for years. I mean, since 2008, when I started to take up arms as the copier warrior and stand against these mediocre, mindless, and old school mentality tactics of the sales profession. But we're seeing it right now in this pandemic. This generation is experiencing it when they look at their idols and the men and women that they worship inside of the world of business, and especially inside of the sales world, and watching them to literally crumble and to make excuses and to go back on the things that they've been talking about, to fire individuals that they shouldn't be firing at their business instead of doubling down on their growth and serving, or getting rid of their big fancy stuff in order to afford to be able to provide for those people's families. That's what we're here to start to change. Because if we can build and raise up an army of sales leaders that are in it for more than just this financial security, then we will have massive amounts of change and growth inside of the sales world.
Wow. Very powerful. All right, we're going to take a quick break to tell you a little bit about what we do here at Monster VoIP. We help companies save 30 to 50% off their current business phone bill while providing them more value and more features. If you'd like to learn more, you can text us at 424-378-6966. Dale, it's been incredible thus far. I mean, like you've really opened up and told us a little bit more about your story, which I really appreciate. And we just talked about the mission behind the Sales Rebellion. Tell me a little bit about what you think the next chapter is for modern sales success.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the experience that we're giving in the B2B world that we're giving our consumer. There's a lot of experience that already happens in the consumer side on the B2B end. There are things that you probably purchase even like on a monthly subscription, or that eventually, or that occasionally you go to a storefront to purchase, where things have evolved a little bit. You can feel it. You can tell the difference between A and B, right, is the idea, where there shouldn't be much to tell because they're so close together in the alphabet, but there's a massive one. And in the B2B world, it's the same crap. It's the same process. It's the same everything. It's very stale. It's very boring. It's very bland. It's very product-centric. It's very company-centric. It's not about giving the person on the other end an experience. We like to say that the Sales Rebellion is Disney for the B2B world. And we back that up because we do crazy stuff. I'm sure people know that are listening, and you probably know too, about the crumpled letters, the Rebel Letter campaign. We give the crumpled letter away for free so that people can just see the reaction somebody gets. And then to understand there's a cadence behind it, and that we base this whole entire, please. Tell
us, for the people that maybe don't know about the infamous crumpled letter, please shed some light.
Yeah, the background on it is that it was at a time, I came up with it at a time that I was struggling with going door to door and getting good success. And it was actually during a pandemic that happened back in 2009 and 2010, where doors were locked. People had signs on them like, don't come in. And that's how I made my money. And so I had to try to figure out how to interrupt the pattern of what people were doing and what people were expecting, and see if I could get something to my decision makers. So I got on the internet, I did some searching, I found an article from 2004 from a realtor that was getting a terrible return rate on his direct mail. So instead of just sending his direct mail out, he started crumbling up the envelope and with the paper inside, and he would put a little red note on the outside of the envelope that said, "Don't throw me away again." And he would send it, or I should say, not red letter, but red print. So he wasn't writing it either. He was getting it printed right on the envelope. So he was spending some money, especially back then. And then direct mailing, he went from like a 2% return rate to like an 18% return rate, like literally overnight. And I looked at that and I thought, well, this is really unique. The letter sucked, just being honest. And if the guy ever hears this, I mean, I love you, bro, but that letter was terrible. But the thing that I realized and I recognized was that we can create a narrative around these things. And so we actually built a cadence, because sometimes, even like at 18%, the reason that he only got a return like that is because there's a whole segment of people that need you to prove that you are this thing that you just showed them. So you've got 82% of people left that are sitting back going like, yeah, let's see what else you got. Let's see if you're really the change I've been looking for. And so we created a 5-piece cadence. At the time it was 4, it's 5 now with the digital letter. We have expansions being released right now for it as well. So it'll be 12 will be the total, because marketing tells us right now that you have to, put 12 touches in. So we're going to kind of have that cadence built in. But I'm going to tell you right now that people get a deal and an appointment off of 1 letter. And it's happened to tons, hundreds of them. I've been hearing, from people all around the world. We have thousands of downloads of the free version, and a ton of people have bought the entire cadence and found that on the 2nd letter or on the 3rd letter that they get a different kind of response, or that the buyer just comes to them at that point. It's like, yo, these are great. I just want to learn more about you at this point. And then also, can you teach me this? Which is amazing, because you take the focus off of you and your product and you put it on the person and the interest that they have in developing a relationship with a human that is good at something. And everybody struggles with sales, man. And so if you can do sales good, people are going to be like, well, what do you got? Like, I'll let you tell me what you got. And if you can keep them in that boat of experiences and give them that breath of fresh air, they'll buy from you.
Yeah. And then that's your first opportunity to just serve and be helpful with no, not asking for anything in return. Incredible. I love it. So tell me, what do you think let's go a little deeper, right? So the next chapter of modern sales. So like how you're saying, obviously we've seen a lot of shift on the consumer side, like in the B2B space, like what does a more modern, sales success look like, where people are, there's kind of a movement of, there's a lot of people, some of them are mutual friends that are on this movement to like really help others, serve others, be more customer centric, stop, being loud about your awards and your company and this, and just lead with, trying to get your commission check up. There's a movement of people, but if more people go in that direction, what does kind of the future of sales look like?
It looks like something that people don't hate anymore. That you could actually be at a party and someone could say, what do you do? And you could say, I'm a salesperson, and people would go sick. Instead of just being ticked off that you're in there, right?
Or like, oh yeah, I gotta go.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I went to college, so I didn't become a salesperson myself. Yeah, I've heard of some crazy stuff. One of our coaches, Adam Snyder, he tells a crazy story, and it's like one of his whys behind being as a salesperson is where someone said to him, I never thought I could do that because I'm not good at lying to people. And she said it to him like in honesty, not in like a jab or anything like that, in honesty. And he thought, it's nuts to think that there are people out there that perceive this profession this way, because this profession serves, this profession helps, this profession enables you as the consumer to begin with. So I think that that's the bottom line. It puts it in a place where people start to take a positive spin on what it is, and that aren't ashamed of calling themselves salespeople. Yeah. If you find our students or anybody that's weaved into our movement to any capacity, because we don't necessarily care who does it by any means. We're a movement more so than we are a training facility or training and coaching facility. And so the reason for doing it, though, as well, is to tell people they stand out from the crowd. But you'll see people describing themselves in their LinkedIn bios or even on their business cards that they're sales rebels, instead of saying that they're an account executive. And I think that's powerful right now, especially. And it's great because it was our students that started it. And I just thought, well, that's cool. We'll see what happens. But to go to your prospect and your prospect says like, well, what's a sales rebel, right? Kind of curious, because this is all about, our whole foundation is based around the cause of curiosity to begin with, and how you get that foot in the front door as it is. Because right now they're inundated by the 17 to 25 other salespeople that are trying to sell them something else. Even if it's not your same product, it doesn't matter. All they hear is a pitch every day, a product push every day. Here's some donuts, take an appointment with me every day. They never get anything that is selfless when it comes to outreach and to begin with. And so when they see things like that, it causes them to ask questions. Allow people to get into that kind of headspace, and you'll change the game entirely. But on the way there, you'll change the face of sales, where at least half of the world is the goal. Will start to say like, I'm in sales, and it's cool.
Yeah. or just be more proud to wear that badge, right?
Truth.
And what I find interesting is, I mean, we get a lot of feedback from customers and prospects. They're almost surprised when you want to serve and help and not just try to push some product or service or oversell them on something they don't need. They're like shocked, almost taken back. And it shouldn't be that way.
Truth. It shouldn't.
All right. So we're just about out of time. Dale, thanks so much for your investment and time today, and welcome to the Monster Chats community. Before we let you go, anything else you want to let people know? Tell them, where they can find out more about the Sales Rebellion movement, how they can, reach out to you if they have any questions.
Yeah. If people want to find me, bro, the best way to do it is go to Google and type in Dale Dupree. You'll find every which way to get a hold of me, and you'll find every which way to hear content from me, whether it's guest podcasts, salesrebellion.com, linkedin.com/IN/copy warrior, @Sales Rebellion on Twitter, Instagram. You can find me on TikTok, Leader of the Rebellion. I'm everywhere, dude. I'm anywhere that anybody else is.
Are they gonna find some old videos of you guitar shredding or what?
You can if you're really good at searching. You can find all my albums on iTunes and Spotify still. It's funny, people sometimes do find old stuff or old videos, and they'll send me emails like, is this you? It's pretty good. But yeah, you can find either one. But if you want to have a conversation with me, the best way to do it is Dale@thesalesrebellion.com, or head to salesrebellion.com and find my cell phone. I put it out there for anybody that's willing to try and look it up.
Yeah. Or download the crumpled letter free version.
You can download the free crumpled letter at crumpledletter.com. And then from there, you can buy the rest of it or just use the free one and make a bunch of money. We don't care.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, share, and also we are open to hearing your feedback. The show is all about you. Thanks again, Dale, for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Monster Chats, presented by Monster VoIP, where we share the tools, methods, and best practices that business leaders use to build new connections, strengthen relationships, and impact sales in organizations of all shapes and sizes. If you have any questions from today's show and want to reach us directly, please text your question to 424-378-6966.